Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome to some EVE Online. Today is going to be a discussion about nullsec. So once in a while I watch a video about a nullsec fight, or I read an awesome story about a fleet fight together with kill reports of all of those destroyed capitals, and then I say to myself, someday I am also going to try that. Let me get a few asteroids going here. But of course then something like last weekend's fight in hed happens as well, and then I am reminded that hell no, I am not going to devote all of that time in nullsec at the moment. To be fair, when I look at a fight like 6VDT or hed-gp, and all the problems and time commitment that come with it, frankly, I'd rather be mining like what I'm doing right here. At least here you still have something to show for the effort and the time you're putting in. So for the people that don't play EVE Online, I may not completely follow what I'm talking about. Perhaps a quick explanation on what happened last weekend. There was a huge fight by two of the largest coalitions, I think, in the game that was going to go down in hed-gp. And they plan to bring more than 4,000 players, I guess, to that one system. And of course, as we all know by now, the server could not handle such incredible loads, which in the case of this fight from last weekend turned out to be devastating for the attackers, where a lot of them were stuck on a loading screen, which is like a jump animation in a warp tunnel, to get into the system for 40 to 45 minutes by the time they came on the field. Most of their ships were destroyed or were already targeted and being shot at. They basically had no chance whatsoever to even activate a single module. On top of that, that system, which was of course incredibly stressed, was in what we call 10% tie-dye for probably hours and hours on end. This basically slows down time to 10% or less than 10% of what it would normally be. So something that normally takes 1 minute is going to take 10 times longer to activate or to happen while the server is in such a state. This of course avoids the server from crashing, which from what I've read has not happened, but it is of course also something that means that you have to dedicate 4 to 8 hours just for this one fight. And of course, if you spend like hours of that on a black screen or on a loading screen, that I mean, that's extremely frustrating. And personally, it's really something that's putting me off from nullsec completely. I'm not going to engage in such activity. I feel that I cannot waste my time on a situation like that. Now, after such a big fight, there are always huge discussions on the EVE Online forums, and I wanted to wade in a little bit with my own perspective on this for this video. So one thing that I'd like to start with is something that does come back, but I feel that it's only a very small minority that's either trolling or just doesn't understand what's really happening, and that most people will agree with me that blaming the server and blaming CCP on a 4,000 player fight not being able to run smoothly on their server is just stupid. 4,000 people in a single system, that's probably the population of a full server for most MMOs. To blame CCP here and to have the expectation that something like that should run smoothly, when this is really pushing the edge of what hardware and connectivity can handle at the moment, is just something that I think most people agree with, that is not the problem. You just cannot expect what is physically impossible for CCP to manage. And so yes, you do read that of course on the forums from time to time, but I also think the counter arguments quickly come in that 4,000 people is no other game can allow warfare at the scale that EVE Online does. So yeah, that's just one thing. I do think it's important to keep hammering that point. We are on the cutting edge of what's available scale-wise in warfare, even if it's with a lot of problems. The second one, where I think that everyone on the other hand will agree with, is that a large part of the problem is the current sovereignty mechanics. So in EVE Online, in nullsec, you can conquer space with a system called sovereignty, but unfortunately the end result, the end game of such a sovereignty fight is always a timer where both the defenders and the attackers know exactly in what system, at what time they have to be in order to either manage or defend the objective. And that means that they will just bring everyone and everything that they can to these situations. And considering the large coalitions we have going in EVE Online these days with thousands upon thousands of players in a single coalition, it just breaks the limits of what servers can handle, and you get these huge fights with 4,000 people that try and duke it out in a single system. And of course, if the server can't really handle the load that is being put on it, it comes with a lot of problems. And due to the tie-dye system, which is great in and of itself because it allows a server to manage a lot more than what any other server could do, it also increases the length of time that you need to dedicate to such a fight to, in my opinion, ridiculous amounts of time. I mean, 6 to 8 hours, that's just crazy to me. I cannot even imagine myself even contemplating something like that. So yeah, the sovereignty system, that needs to be changed somehow in order to push people towards having their fights in different systems in order to relieve the servers. I think everyone can agree on that. The problem is, of course, to find a good system for this. It's not as easy as it sounds, and I can understand that this is something that CCP doesn't want to just throw out there because it may just do more damage than good. If they do this and the system turns out to not be a good one, then maybe even the bi-monthly fight that we get now with 4,000 people might even turn out to be the better option. So yeah, people agree that it has to change and that it's a big part of the problem, but how do we fix this? That's extremely hard to do, and I've honestly yet to find suggestions that people agree on and that don't get immediately countered with possible exploits and possible problems. Another part of the problem that people often refer to on forum threads and stuff like that is the high mobility of these nullsec fleets due to Titan jumping or bridging and the entire networks that they have for fast traveling across multiple systems. And while of course it's conductive to the current problem, to the blobbing problem, because a big alliance can get a huge fleet of 1,000 people to attack a system on one side of the universe at one point, and then a few hours later come in and defend their home system, which can be very, very far away. So, and I agree to a certain extent that this is making it easier to have these kinds of fights and to organize them, but I don't exactly agree that this is part of the problem. This just speeds up the process of people gathering thousands of players, thousands of ships in a single system. If you would limit how fast or how often people can move their fleets around, all this would do is delay the inevitable blob problem. I think that we will then just see alliances and coalitions adapt the production of their super capitals and of their fleets around the new ways of moving their fleets. All this will do is delay it a little bit because people just like safety so much that they will just build more ships in more places in order to be able to have their entire alliance jump in on a single fight whenever they want to. So people will just do the extra work of building more ships, of making more stuff available in order to still have as many people in a single fight as possible. So while it does facilitate the current problem of having 4,000 people fight in a single system, it's not really a part of the problem. Personally, well, I think that the sovereignty system is a huge part of it. I'm going to say something that might sound a little strange and maybe even be a bit controversial. I think another part of the problem is that nullsec is too safe. Nullsec is too safe, what the hell are you talking about? It's as sandboxy as it comes. And to some extent that's true. But it's a phrase you see very often. You know, nullsec is even safer than highsec. Of course, this is not true. They don't have a system like Concord to keep people in check. But the big alliances, the big coalitions that are being formed basically create a safe environment for their people. It's part of what they do. It's a natural process. I'm sure, you know, people actually crave safety, even not just in gaming, but in their day-to-day lives. And this is of course reflected in big groups, in alliances, in coalitions. And the real problem with this is, of course, is that there are some, how should I say, game mechanics that are counter to the sandbox experience that allow these alliances to actually create this extremely safe environment. In this extremely safe environment, they can build up huge forces, huge material assets to create these enormous fleets and then throw everything into a single system to create a big blob fight. What am I talking about? First of all, I think a major one is that outposts, stations in nullsec cannot be destroyed. You cannot get rid of the assets that are being accumulated in there, and I think that's actually a major part of the problem, because you have outposts where they have thousands upon thousands of capital ships, whether it's carriers or dreadnoughts. They're just in there and they can give it to their alliance, and on a night like those 6VDT and hed-gp fights, there are thousands of dreadnoughts that undock in 1 minute from a single outpost, which is just completely unrealistic. But worse than that, it's 100% safe for them to do so, because you can take over an outpost, but you cannot destroy the ships that are in there, and thus this facilitates this build-up and this safe environment that people then want to defend with huge groups. So I do think that actually that is one of the other major problems. This is my personal opinion, of course, but yes, coming to the question of my title, you know, how would you change nullsec? I think first of all, I agree that CCP should try and change the sovereignty mechanic to something that encourages fights to take place in different systems at the same time, rather than a single fight in a single system with everyone from the two opposing sides. That's without a doubt that's probably going to fix most of the problem, if they can actually get a system like that going. But if I had my way with nullsec, I would make outposts destroyable. Hearten the hell up to anyone that has stuff in there and that is not currently subscribed or whatever. That should just be a part of the risk in EVE Online. Let me see if I can find another asteroid to mine here. Outposts should be destroyable, just like in Wormhole Space, where you can get rid of a boss. You should be able to burn an empire to the ground, and with them losing every single asset in it. I think, you know, that's very harsh, but I think that's also a part of the problem. And then another one that I would personally do. Now, this is just some theory crafting from me. You know, if my vision for EVE Online came true, you know, and the one problem that you see very often is the proliferation of super capitals. There are alliances and coalitions with hundreds of Titan ships. When they first came out, CCP expected the players to ever in the entire lifetime of the game make perhaps 1, 2 or 3 Titans. Now there are hundreds upon hundreds of them. If you see a kill report of a Titan, I think hardly anyone looks up anymore. That's just become a part of the game. And that is also something that I would personally try to change in nullsec. The reason that this is possible is, once again, that there is too much safety in owning a super capital. You can basically store it in absolute safety by unlogging while in your Titan or your super carrier or whatever, because it simply disappears from the game. This allows large groups, large alliances, to create an environment where they can just build up huge forces of these super capital ships in almost total safety. All they really need to do is make sure that they are coordinated enough, that everyone logs in at the same time, and that they have a fleet ready to hold the field whenever their entire fleet of super capitals logs in and comes into the game. This is, of course, again, that too safe aspect of nullsec that is creating some of these problems. And how would I change this? Now this is really going to go into very wishful thinking on my part, but yeah, I would completely change that aspect of super capitals. I would make it so that they can no longer disappear while logging off. Instead, I would implement something like deployable items that would change the super capitals from what they are now, just ships that are flown and destroyed and shoot stuff, or have some extra functions like bridging from titans. They would change them into something completely different. A titan, for instance, would pretty much become like an outpost. A titan is like a flying mega city. It's got millions of people in it. It should have manufacturing capabilities, research capabilities, storing capabilities. People should be able to dock there and fit their ships. The Titan should have ammunition and weapons for a whole armada that is supporting it. And so my vision of this would be, let's take the Amar one, because I think that would be really cool. That it would dock with a deployable item, and then it would go upright, and it would basically become a temporary outpost for that alliance, where they can do research, manufacturing, whatever they want, maybe even bridging, you know, something that helps them to transport fleets from one point to another, but it doesn't disappear from the game anymore. In a similar vein, you know, the idea that I had then is well, what would I do for the super carriers? You know, there are also supers that can't dock anywhere. So what would I do if they can't disappear from the game anymore? Well, I would also add a deployable item, and what this would do would change them into basically a flying not a flying, but a stationary fortress that you could use to defend your titans. And what it would be is, once they would be deployed, and so the pilot logs off, the fighters and fighter bombers would actually undock and would be, while NPC driven, they could keep an eye on the perimeter and attack anyone that is trying to engage your Titan or whatever, or something like that. And of course, the next step that I had then, the next thought that I had then was, and if you could incorporate Valkyrie into that mechanic, so that people that play Valkyrie can actually go into one of those super carrier fighters, fly around there, maybe have mock battles, VR mock battles amongst themselves in between super capitals when there's no real action, and then when something would go down around one of those titans, they could actually fly during a battle from one of those fighters, from those deployed super carriers, and have awesome fights in EVE Online Valkyrie. You know, that would be like my super vision of how I would keep super carriers from being safe by logging off, but giving them really cool features that could help the alliances and motivate them to make them in more strategical ways, rather than just bulk creating hundreds upon hundreds of titans and only logging them in when it's absolutely safe and they know that they'll be able to destroy half a capital fleet with them. Anyways, yeah, that's like my wishful thinking, my vision for nullsec, how I would change nullsec and try to fix it a little bit, considering the current problems they're having. But overall, yeah, EVE Online, it's still such a great game. Do you know any other game that allows 4,000 people to duke it out in a single system? I know I don't, and it's really awesome. But yeah, my question to you guys is how would you change nullsec? How would you try and maybe fix it, or what is your vision for nullsec? Feel free to post some there in the comments. I'm really curious about that. I gave you my crazy ideas about what I would do, and I would love to hear yours. Anyways, thank you very much for watching the boring footage as well. Still, I think it's better than any of the real-time footage you would see from one of those battles. But for now, I'll see you all next time.